All right, listeners. Well, I've been really excited about this one. This guy, I can't wait. He's got some cool software out that a lot of people are saying good things about, which we will get into. But we got to back up to the beginning. I got Mr. Dylan Chalk this morning. How you doing, Dylan?
Hey, Preston, how you doing? Thanks for having me on, man.
Awesome, awesome. Well, we're going to ask Dylan all about his story and back up. Before he was a software maker, he was an inspector, and maybe still an inspector. And I'm sure all that ties in together. But yeah, we were talking a little bit in the pre talk about people's stories and stuff. So tell us your story, Dylan. I was doing a little snooping. Looks like you grew up in Connecticut, went to college in Colorado, but now own an inspection company in Seattle. So how did all that happen?
Just kept moving west until I hit an ocean, had to stop. Yeah. So, one of the things I love about your podcast is sort of hearing how people got into this business. It's funny, but it's such a great business and it's sort of extraordinary, but nobody goes to school to be a home inspector out of high school, right? We all seem to have these journeys, and then we bump into this great career that we all end up loving it. And yeah, I'm a home inspector. I do home inspections every day still. But I started out, got out of college, like everybody, trying to wonder what the heck I'm going to do. I actually ended up commercial fishing in New England for a while, and
wow,
for giant tuna, which was pretty fun. I thought that would be a great career, but realized a life of abject poverty probably wasn't in my own best.
It's feast and famine, literally there, isn't it?
It is, yeah, it is. No, it's and some guys make a great living at it, but that's a tough business. And then I also really wanted to be a writer, and then I also realized that, wow, a life of abject poverty is just really not.
I wanted to be an artist, so I'm right there with you, brother.
Yeah, right. So you're like, all right, well, what's
that starving artist thing is not as great as it sounds.
No, like that they remember you when you're dead,
My mom told me that. Said if you can't make money until you're dead, and I was like, well, that didn't work out too well.
Yeah, that's right. So and I did construction kind of to pay my way through college. I did construction, and then after college I was doing it, and I loved construction, but I wasn't the greatest at it. I was kind of like a decent carpenter if I went really slowly, and I was terrible if I went quickly. And I was like, I can't make a living at this, and I was like, well, a friend of mine bought a house and he had a home inspection, and he asked me to ride along to just sort of watch the whole thing. And I was like, this is crazy that this is a job, huh? That you can look at houses and help people, and you get to write a report. So I'm actually one of the crazy people that kind of got into home inspection, partly because I got to write every day,
Oh, yeah. You combine two of your things. Yeah.
That's right. Yeah. And it is interesting. If you want to be a writer, it's actually hard to make a living. And this was something I was like, well, I could write every day. And it's not like creative writing, but it's still, you're still trying to gather data and present it to people in a way that they can understand. So even though you're using tools of software and stuff, it's still it's probably some of the most important writing we could do, right? It's just
and I'm seeing now how that could lead to creating software. But keep going. I didn't mean to.
No, that's exactly right. So you get started, and I've been doing it for about 18 years, and I'm sure you've been doing it that long or longer. And you go back then, digital cameras were a brand new thing. Yeah. Right. I mean, I remember
I had the floppy disk, and it was state of the art at the time. Yeah. The Mavica, digital, the Sony Mavica.
I remember there was a person I had that would staple Polaroid pictures to
Oh yeah, we did that. We did that, and I would say I would write on we had the 3 carbon, it was a report. It was 3. You go through, and I would say see picture 2, and that would be I put 2 on one of the Polaroids.
That's awesome.
And I was like, all right, we got to get everything in 10 pictures or less because it costs $1 a picture.
Yeah, right. Yeah, totally. Well, and you wonder. I mean, I remember back in the day, it seemed like home inspectors would get sued, every other year. But you think about it, we really didn't ever get tools to document what the heck we were doing in any sort of cost-effective, time-efficient way, So yeah, I mean, that's how I started with the little triplicate carbonless copy things, and oh my God, I was so
on the hood of the truck.
Pulling out.
It's still warm. It was like the truck was hot.
Yeah, right off the printer. Yeah. Yeah, so I don't know, you get to, even early on, that didn't feel right. And so I was looking, and I tried a lot of the different software systems when I got into starting my business. And, I had a Palm Pilot thing that, I mean, I think I threw my Palm Pilot in the Puget Sound. I just couldn't stand clicking on that thing. And so, as I was trying to get my company off the ground, and you go out and you market, right? And you're like talking to agents, and man, that's just painful. I mean, it's absolutely painful. And
It
the
is. It's
epiphany
tough.
that happened to me early on is that, all right, if I'm going to go through this much pain to get a job, when I get a job, I got to deliver. I got to turn that into 10 jobs, into 20 jobs, into 50 jobs. And I quickly realized that like my single best tool for that was going to be a report. That if I do a report that stands out relative to everybody else's, that's my marketing. I
Right.
can, and if I can just get one stinking job, I can deliver a great report, and that person will tell their coworker and their friends and their family, and I'll get more jobs. So it truly, like, for me, report writing started out of a desire to not have to market my business.
I
Yeah,
like it, man.
yeah,
I
right.
like
I
it.
mean, and that I would just use my report as my marketing. So, yeah. So like then, the first iterations of report writing for me, where I hired a guy to build like macros in Word,
Right.
and
Right.
it was kind of like, the sort of jamming about 50,000 springs into a box and slamming the lid shut. I
That's a
mean,
good metaphor there.
yeah, right. I mean, the thing just, I was always like on pins and needles whether it would work at all. But, I could at least start like making a library of comments and attaching pictures and present a report that I thought looked good. So that was kind of, my first steps at like trying to use report writing for marketing. And then one day I was out doing a job, and I met my partner. My partner's wife is a big real estate agent in Seattle, and I was doing an inspection. I mean, this is like 10 or 15 years ago or something. And he was kind of like looking over my shoulder. My partner was at the time. I'd barely even met him, and he was watching what I was doing, and he goes, I could make that a lot better. And I was like, all right, talk to me. I would love a better way to do this. So anyway, right there's the little story that is the genesis of Scribeware. It was sort of me wanting to do something that looked better and was more convenient for me. And my partner, and he was an ex-Microsoft guy that he had just quit Microsoft. He worked on Xbox and stuff, and he was sort of helping his wife out in real estate, just as like figuring out what he wanted to do next. So that's kind
Right.
of how we met. Yeah.
That's cool. That's cool. Now, there's so many questions I have, and so I'm just trying to narrow it down to which direction to go here. And I also have severe ADD, so it's like squirrel. I want to ask all about Scribeware and how it works and all that, and also report delivery. I'll tell you a quick story that we've used a couple of different softwares, and most of them involve converting to a PDF or have up to this point. I know now there's some talk of HTML type stuff, but in the early days before ISN, there was something called ISS, which was sort of similar, but before that there was nothing. People were just, well, in the beginning, back in the day, we just handed the report, that 3-copy, right to the agent, right? I'm talking
Yep.
about the evolution of report delivery here.
Yep. Yep.
Or we had it in a 3-ring notebook and we would deliver it to the
Yep.
actual office the next day. And that would get
Yep.
tough if the offices were all over. And then we came up with something before any of these things. Here's what we did. We started doing digital reports, and we did a file FTP on our website. So basically we would load up the report on the website, and the buyer could go, when I look back, I was like, wow, that was pretty revolutionary. It's
It
still not a
was.
bad idea.
Yeah.
And it was always this, the code was the 6-digit date, like today would be, 0407 22, and
Yep.
the buyer's last name, and then they could download the report.
Love
And
it.
it was kind of cool in a couple of ways, because everybody who did a report went to our website, and usually multiple
Yeah.
people. So that got lots of hits on our website,
Yeah.
and we completely controlled it. And if you catch me anywhere, hey, how do I get my report? All I have to ask is, what was the date it was done? What's your last name?
Yeah.
All right, you go to this website and you type in this 6-digit in the thing, and I could tell them. And, but then came ISS ISS and ISN and all these, and they do all this. And, I've actually looked back to what we were doing. And I was like, well, I had total control of the data, which
Yeah,
we'll talk
yeah,
about that. I don't know.
we
I was like,
will.
maybe we should
Yeah.
read that back. But how, I want to ask about Scribeware and report delivery. And I don't know. I just got so many different directions to go. I don't know
Yeah.
where to start.
Well, a good one to start is data.
Okay, yeah, let's start
right?
there.
I mean, because so anyway, I mean, I'm a home inspector, and I don't know about you, but I remember, to me, it's always been that the data doesn't even truly belong to us. That it's our
Correct.
clients' data,
Right.
and so we certainly don't want to put the home inspector in any kind of position between their client and their client's data. So anyway, our business point of view is 100% that it's not even your data, it's your client's data, and that it's secure, and we're not messing with it or selling it to anybody. So that's like
Right.
just,
And apparently, I mean, I didn't even know back then that the data would, it turns out the data is very valuable. For alarm leads, insurance quotes, a whole range of stuff, where they get cable TV or whatever, or their Wi-Fi and all this stuff. And I think, I'm trying not to get myself a letter from a lawyer here. But obviously, if you're in the home inspection field and you're listening to this, you're aware. I mean, some of the big hubbub right now has been about, some of these softwares that we're using that were great, that now, and I know you and I probably are about on the same page with the data. Here's my beef, Dylan, is, and I'm hearing different things. If a software company, gives, the home inspector the option or whatever, if they want to do something with their data, I may not agree with that, but at least they have that option.
yeah.
Here's the one that really ticks me off, is that if you're one of those people who don't want to do that, but then they're putting stuff in front of your people anyway, like that they have to opt out of, that really pisses me off, because
Oh,
I'm paying for this
absolutely.
software and I don't want my clients to be bothered with your insurance quote or your alarm quote. Now, and I agree, whose data is it? That's more of an ethical, but at least the home inspector can make that decision. But now if that decision is being taken away, and I'm immediately going, well, what the heck? And it really pisses you off, because if you got multiple inspectors, moving everybody to a new platform, and you're so intertwined with it, it's very painful. And I feel like they know that, you know what I mean? And it's
They
like,
do. Yeah. They're, the pain point of switching is so high that they can just kind of turn up the volume on trying to get as much stuff out of that data as possible. And I frankly really worry about our industry a bit. I mean, I see some kind of, from my perspective, as I've always loved that home inspection was this bunch of rugged individualists, it's like
right.
real free market. And I want to preserve that in our industry. And, I think the truth is we've got Wall Street companies with a lot of investment money, that is money that we can't even get our heads around it so much. And, the what is the total value of home renovation in America?
A
Trillions
lot.
of dollars, I mean, you can't, I
Right.
couldn't begin to count that. So there are people at a very high level that are thinking, how can we take our billions of dollars and skim hundreds of millions of dollars off of this trillion-dollar industry? I mean, that's what's happening
Right.
on a very big level, and we're witnessing that. We're just like the ants on the ground, doing our thing. But that's what's happening to us, and certainly from a business perspective, I would like to offer an alternative to that is not a part of that. That's like old school. And one of the frustrating things from us is building great software is very time consuming and expensive,
It is. And
and
we've
we,
thought about doing it in-house,
that's
but
right.
I'm like, we tried to build an app one time and it just sucked up so much time, energy, and resources. I was trying to tell Chip, who's our manager, I'm like, well, what if there was somebody else who kind of did this, like Dylan or somebody,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
like you had
Well,
to but so anyway, lots of questions there.
well, no, but I mean, on Scribeware, that's kind of, we've tried to create a platform that, I mean, you could build it into almost anything. We've got scribers all over the world. We've got people that use it for home inspection, sewer scope, infrared, water damage. I've got businesses that are using it, like pressure washing companies, and they'll take before and after pictures to sort of CYA stuff and to show what they're doing. We've got people using it for insurance stuff, engineers using it. So it's an incredibly malleable platform that could be used really in any way. Which is an interesting, sort of slight marketing failure on our part, probably. But I've certainly got the comments from a multi-inspection firm I know, and he's like, "Yeah, I looked at Scribeware, but it was too thorough. It was, and that was disheartening to me because I was like, well, God, Scribeware could do anything. Like you could do a checkbox report. You could, we support everything from the most primitive checkbox report to, Charlie Buell is one of our early scribers, and that guy will spend like 8 hours working on reports, and it looks like some sort of CIA documentation of the Kennedy assassination or something, right? I mean, so you can do everything. So that was kind of one of our goals starting out with Scribeware. But back to your point on data, we'd like to not really play around with that. But it's funny, we live in a culture where how much does Google cost you every month? How much does Facebook cost you every month?
Oh, let me tell you the quote.
So
if you're not paying for the product, you're the product.
That's right. That's it. And it's funny how many people are like, software is so expensive. And it's like, well, so hang on, it's really expensive and complicated to build. My partner is about 100 times smarter than I am and figures out how to do all this stuff. And you don't want to pay for it, and you don't want your data stolen, So it's like, I do think we need to collectively realize that, like, look, if we want a good product and we want our data secure, then it's a service and we need to pay for it. And if it's free, like Google or Facebook, then you're exactly right. You're the product. So
yeah, and all that stuff you fill out on Facebook, your interests, your stuff, oh, that's a marketer's dream.
That's right.
They're getting all kinds of demographics on you, and then those ads, and I'm pretty sure they're listening too, because everything I talk about, I start getting ads.
It's creepy, man, isn't it? I know. I mean, you get this, you talk about your funny pants, and then all of a sudden there's like, an ad form in my Facebook feed, and it's like,
yeah, there's been a couple things. I mean, I get it when I search for something, I understand that, but when I talk about something and an ad shows up, man. Well, I do have a couple of questions about your software, Bill. And to all the listeners out there, I did not send him anything in advance or anything. So, there's nothing prepared, and, and I hope I'm not ambushing you or anything, but it was just questions I would ask you. All right. So Chip, in our company set up where, I'm the owner, whatever, I market a lot. That's kind of my expertise. Chip kind of handles the inspectors and all the software and all those issues and stuff. And I know what's important to him because we've been through it much times. Is it web-based? I mean, where one, like, he could make, what we didn't like with one software was he had to chase down everybody's computer, like when we wanted to change something on the report or the template. Is there a way to do that centrally and it doesn't go out to all?
Let's talk about that. So this is this is some of the great architecture of Scribeware that does kind of make it different. It's actually not a web-based software, which is actually really important. It lives on each inspector's device. That's really important for data collection and data security. We've done thousands and thousands or hundreds of thousands. We try to never lose data. And part of it is that it's stored on your device until you get to the internet connection, or if you're working on an internet connection, it's constantly backing up to the cloud. So the platform is essentially, you could visualize, you're collecting data into a database on your device that when you have an internet signal, will back all that data up in the cloud and talk to your whole team's worth of devices.
Is there a way to edit? I mean, I guess what we're trying to avoid is having to go to everybody's computer, because what we ran into is, everybody's got a different report, man. Because this one guy, his version is like 3 versions. I mean, he hasn't updated, and that becomes a pain. And we wanted something. Is there a way to centrally, like, change it once and it affects everybody? Or is it...
Yeah. So if you, for example, are the admin and you change your template, you write like a killer new water heater section that you want everybody to use. As soon as once you hit save template, and everybody on your team's using that template, as soon as they start the next report, they'll have that water heater, that all the edits that, all the library
So it's
changes.
essentially the same. Okay.
It
All
is, and
right.
they
And
all
no,
share it, and even cooler, you could have a guy out in the field that's doing a job. If he has a good cell connection, you could be back in the office watching him fill that report out. I mean, it's like real time. All that data is coming in, and you like watch the pictures come in, and you see the narratives they're choosing. It's
cool.
pretty cool. Yeah.
Next question I have, but I'm really relaying Chip's questions because it's going through this, is report customization. Can we make it kind of the fonts and stuff that we want? You know what I mean? And make it look. Can you customize? Because there's one software out there that a lot of people use, and again, I'm not saying any names because I don't want to get a cease and desist letter. But
Yeah.
they got all the bells and whistles, but you can't. Everybody's report looks the same. Like mine doesn't look any different than my competitors. Can you
And
customize it?
that's absolutely one of our goals. My dream is that there's like lots of people using it, and you can hardly tell that it's the same system.
Kind of like WordPress. So many people use
Yeah.
WordPress, but everybody's website looks different.
That's right. So, at the moment, they're not unlimited. It's not like Microsoft Word about different fonts, for example. But there's a certain amount of controls around that. It is hard. The more you create too many different looks, you can run into formatting issues and stuff when printing. But you would be, if you start looking at a lot of sample reports. We've actually a scriber just recently came up with some cool code to change all the colors on the headers. And everything, the whole content of the report can be completely customized. So which items you're sending to the summary page, we call them modifiers, but like, major concern, repair, all that kind of stuff. You can change the names of what you want to call different comments. You can choose whether or not they go to the summary page. So it's pretty incredible. I would say most scribers can build reports that look different from each other. We even have builders using it as a tool for project management, if that gives you some idea of like, I mean, you can really start like building a lot of different stuff with it,
Well, I think you kind of answered this question, but I need to ask it just in case. One thing, like in North Carolina, we have like our board has specific things that have to be in the report, and there's one software that that it conforms to that really well because it's from the same state. But there's another software that it doesn't conform. Do we have the ability to change the order or make 1.1.2, whatever that goes in order of what's required by our state?
Yeah, we're currently growing really quickly. So we're starting to hit a lot of new states. We started out in Washington State as kind of just a word of mouth thing. And all of a sudden the short answer is, if you don't have a solution that's currently built, we'll build it for you. I mean, we can make it fit and do lots of different things. And that's actually an interesting topic of just software development. Like, one of our philosophies is to try to solve all problems with the existing tools we have first. And the reason for that is that, we want to try to keep it as simple as possible. And the more code you add to it, the more features you have, it can get hard to use.
Right.
So, like if you wanted to use it, it would be like, well, show me your report. What are your needs? We'd go through it. And we actually have some people that, I believe in your state, for example, signatures and license numbers have to be on the
have to
cover.
be on it. Yes.
So we just figured out a way to do that for people there, So, we basically, you hit us with what you need and we can come up with it. And then we can also try to figure out what tools we have that exist to kind of fit your needs. If that makes sense.
Sure. Another thing that we like to do, I don't know if you can do this, like our termite letter, and we're like North Carolina and South Carolina, and they're two different letters. Is it possible to add that? We like to add everything to the report, and make it one document, because what we found is when you send them separate, something gets lost.
So we literally, with this, we won't go into why, but you can, a bunch of you listening that know what's going on in our industry know that there's a lot of sort of, the apple cart has been upset. So we're suddenly growing like crazy here. And one of the first things we did,
I'll bet.
is we just integrated with a PDF form filler. So you could upload any form you want into Scribeware, when you start the report, it automatically brings over the client and property information. So at least that part of the form is filled out. And so it's kind of like you drag a PDF into the report, you click on it, and it opens up whatever form filler you have on your computer. And you can go through and fill out that PDF, save it, and attach it to the report. And what's cool is you can attach it to a part of the report where you could also have a whole bunch of pictures around it, right? I mean, most of those termite forms don't really support putting pictures in the form. They're like a specific form. But you could have in the Scribeware report a whole bunch of documentation that sort of support that, and they all would live right in that same section of the report.
Cool.
Yeah.
Do you have some sort of I know one feature that's become real popular is like an automated repair request or something, and or something that allows the agent, instead of the old school, printing out the report or cutting and pasting, we want this, this, and this, something that kind of they could just go through. Do you have something like that? How does that work?
Yeah, we do. We call that the request list builder. And so, yeah, so how our reports work is you deliver an HTML report. So it's a link. And that has some advantages because there's no constraints for file size, it's just a link. I mean, you could have 2 hours of videos in there if you want. It'll take you a while to upload it all, but like it's all in there. You just send a link. Once you open the link at the very top, you can print the full report to a PDF. You can print just the summary page to a PDF, and you can use the request list builder. And that's like a backdoor into the whole report. And the agent or client could build a custom PDF. So that can be used as a request, like, hey, we want you to fix this stuff. But I actually do, where I am, I do a lot of pre-listing inspections, which that's a whole other podcast there. But
oh yeah, I can talk for
yeah.
I think they're brilliant. It just never has caught on big here.
So this is crazy. I've never marketed it in my life, and I bet it's 95% of my work.
You're kidding me.
Yeah.
Wow. I think it's brilliant because I mean, if you really think about it, the way like we're doing inspections, it's kind of backwards because you have this financial negotiation where both sides probably do some form of compromising, at least in their mind. And, I barely let them, I paid too much, or the other person's like, I'm letting them get away. And then you have an inspection, which now you've introduced, some gas on a fire. If you'd have had that inspection on the front end, that could have been part of the financial, because nobody likes to compromise twice, I've always thought it was a good idea. For whatever reason, we do them, but it's a small percentage of our, in fact, you talk about software. I was involved, me and Dave, that inspectedhouses.com. The idea was to do pre-inspection, kind of like Carfax, where to offset the cost. Basically, you could, the seller would pay you to do a pre-inspection. You could put a sign in the yard, where they text this number, get the report for $19.95. But then that money at the end of the month goes back to the seller. And the idea, and we do a couple of those. Now, granted, the most reports we've ever sold on one house was like 8. So, 8 at $19.95. So it's 8, what was that, $160 or something. That doesn't replace a $500 inspection, but it does offset it. So the selling points on that were, be proactive instead of reactive, find out what the problems are. You have plenty of time to find a contractor to do, instead of last minute, but also to offset the cost. That was the 3 wins on that. But I'm with you on every single thing you said about software development and cost. And it's, it never ends. And then you got to constantly update it and upgrade it. And people don't realize, man, it's not like a free Facebook account.
No, it's an insanely complicated business. Like just your company, like one of the things that can come up with the multi-inspection firm is, well, all right, we've got 20 guys, but we don't want them to see each other's reports. But when they work together on a team of 4, then we want them to be able to see everybody's reports. And by the way, when they work as a team, we want all of their license numbers, signatures, and names to show up on the report. It's like, Jesus, this makes my head explode. Like I have conversations that I don't even understand what I'm talking about,
Oh yeah. Well, and scheduling's that way too. When we first started scheduling, man, we did everything on, I think it was Microsoft Microsoft Outlook Maps or something. But the problem was everybody could see everybody else's schedule, and you know
Yeah.
how that's going to go. Oh, why they got an easy inspection? I got that old POS today.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um,
No, that's
but
hard.
I do have a question for you.
Yeah.
If this could be added, if it's not already, you know how you said you get the report and you could do the thing. Is there any way on the report delivery you could add? All right, so one thing that we like is you have to pay before you can get the report.
Hmm.
And so when we were doing, so we were using ISN, we still use ISN, and then we were also using the software that has the automated repair request. But the problem was that when you sent the automated repair request, there was no door you had to get through like to pay. So we would
Hmm.
send it, it was just a big old pain. We're sending it ISN because we want them to pay for the report. And then once they did that, then we would send them the thing, where they could do the repair request. And I was like, man, it would just be so much easier if, they couldn't get that repair request until they paid or, went through that
Yeah.
door.
I
Is
mean,
that something you can add or, I know you probably hit with all kinds of requests.
no, we are, so right now, this is a good business question that unpacks a lot of things. We've tried to stay focused on report writing. And by
Right,
that, I mean, we haven't gotten distracted with like scheduling, right?
right.
And so we've integrated with both ISN and the Next Inspect system. So
Mhm.
those,
Right,
and part of our thought around that is if you use those systems, they manage that. So you upload your link and you can make it so that the client cannot open the report until you've been paid and until the contract is signed.
right, right,
So,
right, right.
so they won't have access to that request list builder until I mean, they can't get at the report. It's just locked behind that door. We don't have that built into Scribeware, but if you were not using one of those systems, you would basically just wait to send the report until you got paid,
Right.
and then you just hit the send button and then you'd send your email out. And we will probably shortly build a payment portal and like a lock on it. But we do support contracts, so that's nice for the single inspector. But we just don't support the sort of whole payment and like all the stuff the ISN does. And part of our business decision around that is that we feel like those are pretty rich solutions. I mean, I don't know if you use the ISNs, like thing will make you coffee in the morning. I mean, it figures out
Yeah, well,
like the
it's
most,
great.
yeah, and it would take us a lot of time and money to build something like that. And it's hard for us to improve on it a lot. I mean, I don't know, I use it. I could like figure out different things I would do differently, but like, whereas from our perspective, writing home inspection reports, I see unlimited amount of improvement and changes that we could make in the industry for that. I mean, we're not
Yeah,
even
yeah.
beginning to touch truly smart software. That's where we want to go with this. But and I've actually heard comments people like, well, I want a report where you point your camera at the water heater and it just knows what's wrong. And I mean, it's like, well, some of that's going to start to happen, right?
Yeah,
But the
AI
problem
and
is,
stuff.
you can't build that without an entire platform of stuff underneath it that supports all that. I mean, that one feature can't exist on its own because you have to make
Right.
PDFs and you have to like be able to print reports and share things with, the amount of like infrastructure that is the foundation of a report writing software company is amazingly detailed and complicated. So if we're going to get to the like, Buck Rogers stuff, the George Jetson features, then, you have to have a foundation to sit on in order to do that. So that's where we're headed. And it remains to be seen whether we'll get into how much we will get into the whole scheduling thing.
Yeah. No,
Our
that makes
paying,
perfect sense. I guess
yeah,
the only thing I worry about that, and I agree with you, and this isn't on you or anything. I'm just hoping somebody steps up because the one thing that worries me, Dylan, is that from a SWOT analysis or whatever is if you've only got one person supplying the thing you need, and
mhm,
if they get crazy on you, like jack the price way up or decide they want to take your data and you got no alternative. You know what I mean? I
yeah,
mean, I always love to have a plan B. And
yeah,
I love ISN and I'm not saying it out, but man, if they tripled the price on us tomorrow, or quadrupled the price, or
yeah,
just decided to get crazy or something. I mean, I'm not saying they are. I just like everybody to have competition. I mean, we got competition that keeps us all straight, right? I
yeah,
mean, if there was
yeah,
one airline, tickets would probably be about $3,000 a ticket.
I totally agree, man. And I mean that next inspect is another solution. And but anyway, and it may, our hand could end up getting forced primarily out of data security stuff.
Yeah.
That would be a shoe to drop that worries me. Of then I wouldn't have a solution. A lot of us wouldn't. And so if I had to guess, if something forces our hand into getting into all the scheduling stuff, it's going to be that as much as anything, because the actual performance of what exists, I just don't know how I improve on that a whole lot. They
Yeah.
kind of do what you need them to do. So
Yeah.
if you,
100%.
right, if
Well,
you built something, so copy that, or, more or less anyway,
I tell Chip, I'm like, I like, one of my business things is to be like Noah. I like to have two of everything. I even have a backup truck. I like having two of everything, because if the
Yeah.
first thing goes down or they get crazy and they try to charge you too much money, you got an alternative. You
Well,
got a plan B on
and honestly,
everything.
that's one of the great things about Scribeware, just sales pitch here. But when everything's backing up to the cloud, you automatically have two computers. I mean, the
Yeah,
second your computer could blow up in a fire, you buy a brand new computer, you get it connected to the internet, you go to our website, you download Scribeware, you put in your email address, it'll send you a security code. All your data is just sitting there. It's everything's
that's great. Because I remember in
yeah.
the old days, we lost, a computer would get a virus or something, and I've had to go do an inspection and take the pictures again, because I
Yep.
completely lost it all, because the computer got a virus or something. And
Data
I remember
security.
taking a computer over to somebody's house to, all kinds of
Yeah,
stuff.
data loss is something that has been like the absolute forefront of our business model. It's like trying to absolutely eliminate data loss so it can't happen. There's certainly like weird little edge cases that can come up, and it's possible, but we really tried to design a platform where it's nearly impossible to lose your data, and we've gotten pretty close to that.
Awesome, awesome.
Yeah.
Well, I'm trying to think of all the questions that I know Chip. Because I should have brought Chip on this thing. I'm trying to think of all the questions, because
Yeah.
we've been software shopping, and I'm familiar with the stuff. He's looking for. Now, is it? How does? I mean, you don't have to give exact prices, but is it like a subscription, a yearly thing, a monthly thing? And
Yeah.
and if you have multiple people, is there a discount? And what if you have somebody who leaves, or somebody
Yeah.
new? How does that work?
So we charge, we have a lot of different pricing options for students and for people that are kind of like part-time. We have an a la carte program, and that's basically like, a really low fee per report. And then if for companies, it's unlimited report writing, because you're just producing as many reports as you want. So there's one fee for the first license, and that's $99 a month. And then $49 a month for every employee that you have. And so we have to charge monthly, particularly with multi-inspection firms. In our experience, one month you have 16 guys, one month you have 20 guys. I don't know. I mean, it's not like a static thing. It's like people
Oh
seem to
yeah,
be.
well, I was hit with that. I think you had to. It was like licensing, and it was like you bought packs of 10, and I'm like, well, what if you're right at 19, 21? You go back, like, I got to buy a whole nother pack of 10,
Yeah.
like.
No, we try to work with companies on that, because we understand that people are coming and going, and we shut off counts if somebody leaves, and then they bring on a new person, and we'll give it to them. I think we can set it up where they can use it free for a month or two as they're like training a person, so they can get used to it. And we do give a free admin account as well, just for bigger teams, and we could give more if you have a huge team and multiple admins, but usually one suffices. So we try to be pretty flexible on pricing. And then, one of the things I wanted to just pitch, this is like not directly answering your question, but we do have some features that just are very unique to Scribeware, I think.
Yeah,
And,
yeah,
and,
please do,
and,
please
and
do.
that is, we've really put a lot of thought into this is like pretty detailed home inspectors like Charlie and myself and some other really good scribers who influenced us early on thinking about, I just want to talk about report philosophy, but the hardest part of writing a report is typically multiple defects on the same system.
Right. That's like A, B, C, or D, and
Yeah,
then
I mean,
for realtors to like then take that and then take it to contractors or whatever. It gets.
it
I've
could be
had
it,
it gets lost in translation or something.
It does. And those are the hardest comments to write often, right? Like a deck. And there's like, well, there's freaking 20 things wrong with the deck. So how am I going to write this? So
Right.
early on, I would
Or you break it down to just the piers, and there's like 6 things wrong with the piers or something.
That's right. So if one way you do it are those individual line items. And that's when you get the agent feeling like you had 120 repair items on this house, right? And you look at
Deal
it, it's
killer.
like, yeah, that's right. Well, but you look at it, you're like, well, that's interesting. Like 15 of them with a deck and 20 of them with a roof, and right. I mean, and you realize, well, that's not really accurate, is it? I mean, is it if you see a deck that has 20 repairs, is it a sequence of 20 repair items, or is it a major concern? A single, to me, it's a single system, so why are we writing it and all? And typically, if you read those reports, when people use that method, it doesn't read well, does it? It reads like, the pier is settling, hire a qualified contractor to further evaluate. Rot was noted in the decking, hire a qualified contractor to, and so one of the philosophies we've worked on with Scribeware is trying to master the illusion of the fact that we, pretending that we stayed up all night writing a report. So, right? I mean, so that to the client, it looks as though, I wrote this report just for your house.
Right. You don't want it to be, I know what you're saying. You want it to be custom to that house. Well, and you know what? If you ever get caught into a legal thing, a lot of times those lawyers will ask you for other reports too. And if you start just saying these general comments about, you say it in every report, they're going to nail you.
I couldn't agree more. I think there's a lot of liability in delivering reports that are so generic that they, I mean, one of the things always
you
used
say
to
that
drive
on
me
all the
crazy
reports.
was like, I used to use a system many moons ago that had a stucco disclaimer in it. And it's like, well, what if the building doesn't have stucco? I don't want that in there.
Right.
And I think a lot of us use these big paragraphs of disclaimer that are not specific to the building. I don't want a heat exchanger limitation in my report if the building has a heat pump.
Well, and you want to be terse. If you start putting in too much information, they just get overloaded. It's like they won't read the report because it's just, you've got too much. You just need what's essential to that.
So we've come up with some really creative solutions in Scribeware to, on the back end, when you're writing a report, you can be like clicking boxes, and like clicking things. I don't want to have to write. I type like a Neanderthal, I don't want to have to do that. So, I want to but I also want to be able to manipulate my words and manipulate the report quickly to make it look as though I literally sat down and wrote that just for you, and so that's kind of a lot of the thought that's gone into the process of how you can write reports. And so we have 2 features. One we call the photo captions to bullets feature, and one we call a gunny sack. But the idea here is you can, if there's a lot of things wrong with the deck, you have a general statement on top, and then you make your bulleted list below of all the specific defects that you found. And we've got ways to automate and do that incredibly quickly. And now you just have one problem. It's one repair. You need to get somebody to fix the deck, and here's why I think so. Some of these tools, when you really think about it, can start saving you huge amounts of report writing time while also improving the quality of the report. And that's, you get in this industry, a lot of people like, well, how quickly can you do them? I only do them on site. It's like, well, that's fine, but if you do them on site and it's a terrible report, then you're not really moving yourself forward from my perspective, So if you want to do them on site, let's do a great report on site, and then you're moving your company forward, right? And not exposing yourself.
Can you, how do they do on like guys who have tablets or phones? Do they, whether it be, do they go to iPad or to, like an Android device, or how to, I know a lot of guys, including my guys, they like to go around with that. And, the more, if they can knock out some of it while they're doing, we don't write reports on site ourselves, but we try to get some of it, if you get home and you got 2 reports to write, but you got, 60% of one done and 40% of the other one done, that's better than having to do 100% of both reports,
Yep. Yeah. So as far as devices, we support, Mac, PC, iOS, and Android. So, there are devices you can't use, but like that's a pretty wide array, right? I mean, there's a lot of devices you can use. And the cool thing is you could have a team and you could have 6 guys that use iPads and 4 guys that use an Android phone and 3 other guys use an Android tablet. I mean, it doesn't matter. You can completely interchange within a company. And then
And they like integrate. It's not like, hey, you do, the kitchen through this section and I'll do, I mean, it just integrates on its own, or
it does. You automatically sync. So I'll have 3 guys on a job, and I'll be doing outside. One guy's doing upstairs, and one guy's doing downstairs.
Yeah.
And when we get back, all that data syncs into one report just automatically. It's pretty amazing.
Cool.
And then as far as what was the other part of your question there?
Well, I think it was talking about different devices and being able to sync and like, I respect the guys who do reports on site. I've never been able to do that. I always like to sit down and think about. Maybe that's just me, but the more you can get done, I will admit, a lot of, because the problem is, when you do 2-3 inspections in a day, even when stuff's okay, it starts running together in your mind. It's like you get back and you're like, porcelain sink. And wait,
Yeah.
which house was that? Because
Yep.
I like to get as much down as I possibly can, so you don't, especially when you're doing multiple inspections in a day.
Yep. No, that's where I wanted to go with it. Is the on-site thing is a great conversation because to do none of it on site is a huge liability. I mean, it's so easy to forget an electric panel you can't get that kind of granular detail. So, for my workflow on the mobile device, I try to get at least 60% of the report done
Yeah, that's
on site,
so then you can
and
come home and it's not like you got to stay up till 2 a.m,
that's
but you
right.
can go back, and I just like to see how how do I want to say this? But like you said, it's not this gargantuan. I mean, when you just
That's
did a
right.
really big POS and you haven't even started on it and your kids got an award that night, that's going to be a
Yep.
long night.
Although, Preston, I'm telling you, man, gunny sacks and bullet photo captions to text, it's like those kind of houses become so much easier with these tools that we have. And they're really good tools for delivering granular detail, but also being general and just saying, boy, the whole inside of this house is a wreck. You might need to but you can add these
Bulldozer.
but you can put a lot of nice little bullet features in really quickly. So that's a whole other thing. But I think to do none of it on site is a disservice, but I also think sending it on site is very risky. Personally, I like to read them over. How many times have you woken up in the morning and realized a pretty important
You left
thing that
something
you
out of a report.
yeah, you left it out, or you didn't even understand it, like you're like, oh, whoa, I know what's going on there, and I had to sleep on it. You're too tired, you like worked all day. So, as I think of doing an inspection, I would say most houses, at least 60% of it is kind of boilerplate, like there's nothing that special there, and some houses it's like 95%, but some houses it might be 60%. But it's those tricky things that I like to work on when I get home. I mean, if there's a deck with 20 things wrong, it's nice to be specific and understand the scope of it and write a careful comment. I mean, a deck out here, a new deck could cost you $50,000 where I am, and I'm not going to just push a button for that. I want to be specific and say what I found, because there's a lot of money riding on some of these things we're writing up, structural defects,
Absolutely. Let me ask you about your community. One thing I noticed I liked, somebody invited me to your Facebook group page, I think, and it seems like there's a lot of interaction there. And I know you probably can't be in the business of, it's like my inspectors, they all have suggestions, and, if they make sense, I'll do them, but there's no way you can do every single thing that somebody, and again, it's kind of like a realtor. You got one realtor complaining about one thing. I'm not sure that's critical mass to make a change,
Yep.
but talk to me about your community and how that works. And it seems like you're active in it, and it seems pretty positive. I've seen some other communities go south because mainly the root of it is they're not being responded to be honest with you. They have
Yep.
some concerns and nobody's responding to them. And then they're starting to get more and more mad.
Yeah, no, that's such a great question, Preston. And it's actually, you're touching at the thing that I'm most proud of with Scribeware is we just have a great community. I mean, we even some of the new guys coming on have been super creative. One guy came up with a whole CSS script we can use to start customizing our headers. Guy down in Florida started 3D printing these cool Scribeware badges. You know, we've got,
Oh,
but
cool.
there's a lot of innovators in our group, and I love that. And that gets it. You know, my dream is that all these reports look different, and they have people are constantly innovating. So from my perspective, we really want to harness the creativity in our industry and try to use that as momentum to like make our whole industry better, and to make Scribeware better and create a better tool that people can use. On the other side of it, if to your point, if we did every little suggestion everybody wanted, we would build the most complicated software that you could ever possibly use. I mean, you really have to understand, if you're listening to this, that when you're thinking about architecture and software, less is more. You know, the more things you add, the more, that's everything. Every feature is a new thing that can break. Every feature is a new complication that
Right.
if somebody has to have a user interface for and has to learn. So my partner and I call it the meat grinder, but every idea we run through the meat grinder. And
Right.
if we can possibly come up with a solution with our existing tools, we prefer that. And it's not only, you know, cheaper, but it's just much more prudent for the long-term product. So you don't have something that's too complicated. And you know, we've made some mistakes. We have a few features that have been orphaned by other features, you know. And
Right.
so you
Right.
have
Right.
this like little thing and people are like, what does this do? And I'm like, well, I don't even really use that anymore because we've got this feature now. So, you know, we try to avoid as much of that as we can, but some amount of it is inevitable as products evolve. They just keep changing and getting better.
Well, one of the good things I think is it's pretty positive, and that's pretty awesome. If you've got guys coming up, I mean, it almost kind of reminds me a little, you know, like WordPress is a little bit like that, where you know it's sort of a community. I mean, obviously you need to get paid because you know you're not doing this for free, but it's kind of nice if the community and they take pride in it. It sounds like
Yep.
too, and that's a good thing. So that might answer my next question
Yeah.
as you're getting popular, getting more and more people. Um, you know, I love everything you're saying, but you're just one guy, and
Yeah.
you know, it sounds like you got to, you know, somebody helping or something. I guess my question is going to scale. If
Yeah. How
you
do we scale?
all of a
Yeah.
suddenly, you know, just doubled, tripled, quadrupled in size, and now you got a whole bunch more. You know, do you
Yeah,
have
so
some
oh yeah, I
ideas
mean
of
we've got total
scaling
plans for
if
that. I
that
mean,
happens?
so we're actually all tied. I mean, we're in Seattle, so there's like, you know, there's coders everywhere.
Right,
You know, like we live in
you're
a
in the right place.
yeah, so we're all tied into a school out here that can help feed us people that we need to bring on more coders. And then honestly, from a support standpoint, what I'd really like would be to harness home inspectors that want to retire or get out of it and be able to offer jobs to home inspectors, you know, that help
That's
with some
brilliant.
of the
That's
support.
brilliant.
Well, yeah, I mean,
Well,
it's
and you
hard.
know, like the community there, they love like if a question. Just like with our inspectors, we have an inspector. You know, I think we use Discord. I know some people use Slack and all that. It's so great when I don't have to answer that many questions. I mean, other inspectors answer. You know, I mean, I will
Exactly.
answer, but
Yeah.
you know, it's not going to scale if everything has to be top down. You know,
Yeah.
it's so nice when it kind of organically
And
grows
that's
itself, you know.
it's really exciting, isn't it? That's starting to happen now. And what's so cool is there's all these really smart people in our forum that have, you know, they answer things and they know a better answer than I do, you know.
Yeah.
And I mean, that's, we built a product that's so it's sophisticated enough. I don't know how everything works, you know, like I use the parts of it that I use, you know, but we've built things for people in North Carolina, and like they have some parts of it that they use that I never touch, you know. And so you start really needing a community of support. So anyway, that's our plans for managing scaling are, you know, obviously hiring coders as we need them, but on the front end, I would like to make it more as much as possible a home inspector's platform, you know, where it's like it's our thing. You know.
Awesome. Well, and I
Yeah.
know I'm about got you at the time limit here, but I do have to ask this question. I love everything you said, Dylan. All right, from inspectors, and especially if somebody gets really wound up in it with multiple inspectors. I love everything you're saying. What if one of these corporate guys came to you and offered you a really, really big check.
Yeah, well, I
I
mean,
mean, what, and now we're so invested. I mean, I mean, everybody has the right to sell their business, but maybe this person who wants to write you a big check doesn't have the same home inspector perspective that you
sure.
have. Maybe they have a data
Yep.
perspective and not
Yeah,
really
no,
care about the
we've been thinking about that. I mean, there's nothing I can say that it tells, if somebody offers you $100 million for something, it's like, well, I don't know, everybody, I
Oh,
guess,
if somebody
needs
offered me
to
$100 million for my company, I'd sell it. I mean, that's
yeah, right. I mean, so everyone's got a price. So, I mean,
and I don't mean to ambush you with that, but
no,
that
no,
is my worry with.
well, so a couple things. One is that at the moment we're of a size that we're probably a farther time away from somebody wanting to do that to us than
Right.
any of our competitors. All of our competitors are going to be much more attractive to a data mining thing right now. So if nothing else, just out of sheer logistics, we would buy you a lot more time, and then it's also just not what we want to do. And we've even talked like we would maybe prefer to have it be, if it came to that, a community owned thing. Maybe all of the inspectors could all own it together.
Oh, like the Green Bay Packers or something.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, from a personal perspective, I don't often, in fact, I never get a chance to sort of thumb my nose at the sort of Wall Streets of the world, but nothing would give me more personal pleasure than that.
Right, right.
So if there were some creative way that we could come around with something like that, that's right up my alley, and it's right up my partner's alley as well. But that's it's hard to say
You
like you
should
can't ever
issue
say never.
stock to our,
Well,
inspectors can buy
well, yeah,
stock, and
yeah. There's you could
then
have
they become participant in the growth of the. I'm just throwing
yeah.
that out there,
No,
and
I
then
mean my partner and
and
I've
then
talked
that,
about that.
what, then that community really has some stake in making this thing great, and then maybe a sale couldn't happen without approval of a certain
Yeah, I mean,
percentage or something.
wouldn't it be nice if we had a tool that worked for all of us that wasn't going to get sold out to a big company that was going to mine our data? And frankly, if somebody doesn't take a stand and do that, I don't know if there will be anything left that, there's a lot of money in our data. It just, we've got to come to the reality around that. It's worth a lot of money to people. And so we're going to have to come up with some kind of industry-wide solution to sort of protect. If we want to keep it as like the rugged individualist, which I really love about our industry, I think we're going to have to work together to fight for that, because
Well, or that we stay in industry at all. My
yeah,
worry is that it's so much more valuable than the cost of the home inspection. What's going to keep these companies from doing it for free,
mhm.
or just becoming part of. I don't know. I hope that never happens, because I really think there needs to be an objective third party when anybody does that for free, that is got an interest in either buying or selling the house, or an interest in the data.
But
They're certainly subject to not being objective, I guess, is a
Preston,
good word.
I think I'm completely on the same page with you. And I think it's the best case that I can possibly think of for, as an industry, trying to start abandoning this like minimum SOP point of view. Because if you do a checkbox report and all you do is the minimum SOP and it's really basic and really dumbed down and keep it simple, stupid and all that, I get it. But like an appraiser could do that. Like a company could hire like a team
Well,
of people and be like,
you're going to be Woolworth or Kmart at some point.
yeah, it's
The
you can be
Amazons of the world
replaced.
are
You
going
can
to
be
eat your lunch. I
So, I mean,
mean,
this was always my business model, was to create a business that like nobody can do what I do. Nobody can do what your company does, right? This is what we work at as business owners. It's like, I think every one of us should be trying to create a business that is so unique that nobody else can do it. And if we do that, then, a big corporation can't take that, but
yeah.
to me, that involves doing home inspections at a more sophisticated level, because if we keep it really simple, it's going to be a lot easier for a big corporation to outsource that. If we do inspections at a high level, they simply can't get people, they can't train people to do that. It would take too long. It's too expensive. It's too hard. You need too many good tools. That puts us as an industry in a place where we can't get outsourced, we can't get replaced. And, and that gets, my pet peeve is I feel like we're kind of, as an industry, stuck on a 1970s business model.
Yeah, I
When
agree.
houses were really simple and they were a lot cheaper, and there wasn't so much liability. And, I mean, I think we should all be doubling our fees and doing a much better report and doing a much more thorough job. And that would really help protect us,
100%. I mean,
right?
I tell my wife this all the time, like, in a real estate transaction, we get paid the least, but take the most liability of
That's
everybody
right.
involved. The
And
mortgage
probably have to
person, the
know the
realtor.
most.
What's that?
Yeah. And have to know the most. I mean, if you're really good at it, you got to know a ton of stuff. I'm sure we all work so hard at our CE training and just trying to know all these stupid
Well, and
things.
the other thing, to all the listeners out there, think about this. The cost of what gas has doubled, food has gone up. I don't know how much. I mean, everything. And yet our home inspections pretty much about the same price that it was 5 years ago. Maybe even,
Yeah.
I mean, ours have edged up a little bit, but not, I don't think they've kept up with the inflation right now and the cost of everything else, and certainly not the liability.
Yeah,
I mean,
that's right. Or the complexity of modern buildings. I mean, how much more complicated is a modern building than like a 1960s building?
oh, it's crazy. All the
Yeah, all the gear, all the manufacturer's installation requirements. It's like everything's so, if you take an old
smart,
60s.
I mean, there's going to be a day, and it's pretty close. I mean, my wife's getting there now where, our furnace, our alarm, everything's going to be from her phone. She can control everything in
right.
our house
Yeah.
remotely. And as home inspectors, we're going to need to be able to inspect that at some point, or at least offer that.
Yeah.
Does all that stuff work right
Yeah.
and stuff? I mean,
Yeah, now we've got drones and, infrared cameras and laser levels. And, I mean, there's a lot of great tools we have, and we should be charged. I don't know. So anyway, I just think that's how we preserve our industry is raising the bar, doing a lot more for the client and offering a service that can't be replaced by a Wall Street company.
love it. And not being romantic about business, because being romantic about business is a fatal flaw. I mean,
Yeah,
ask Kodak, ask Best Buy, ask Blockbuster Rental.
Yep. Innovate or die, right? I mean,
Yeah.
that's it. And as a small business person, I feel like I'm constantly trying to reinvent my business and come up with like new procedures, new things I'm doing, and it keeps it fresh. It means you're not stale and you're always
Oh yeah.
innovating.
Well, everything, like, when we started this thing, and I know we're at time here, and I apologize.
Yeah.
When we started this conversation, we were talking about the 3 ply, writing the report. I mean, I can remember, and then add digital pictures was like the coolest thing ever. I mean, but the coolest thing ever 3-4 years from now is going to be, everybody's going to do that. So you have to keep, it's kind of like, I don't know if you ever stayed at one of those older hotels and it says color TV. Was that really a USP at one point?
Yeah.
I feel like as a group of home inspectors, a lot of us still have color TV.
No, that's right. And people, I see how hard they take it, and I feel bad because it's painful to innovate, and it's hard, and it takes work. And yeah, I mean, the good old days are the good old days, but if you're a business person, that's, one of the neat things is that home inspection from a software perspective is surprisingly innovative. We're really lucky. I mean, there's some big corporations that still use like Excel to report on things, and I look at like these mom and pop companies that are home inspectors, and they've got incredible software with streaming videos and HTML reports and thermal images and drones and crawl bots for the crawl space. I'm like, it's so cool. I love that about our industry, how innovative we've been. And I think we just have to keep trying to push in that direction to make sure we don't get replaced by appraisers and stuff, and I think we will. But anyway, fun conversation, Preston. What a nice time, man.
Yeah, no, I love it. We could probably talk all day. Well, is there anything that I should have asked you that I didn't?
No, I think we covered a lot of stuff. If you guys want to check out Scribeware, just go to our website. We do lots of Zooms as well to try to help people, do training and get their head around it. It really is a creative tool. And that's kind of what we have wanted to build, is something that everybody can do what they want with it. And you see my perspective. I feel like every home inspection company should have a unique thing about them that makes them totally different from everybody else. They don't have competition. Well, we want a report tool that can support that, where it's like you can mold it and manipulate it and make it do, support your unique business model.
Awesome. Now, is that scribeware.com? Is that
that one will work.
RIBE where scribeware.com? Also, how about if they wanted to like you don't have to give out your cell number or anything, but if they wanted to email you or had follow-up questions, and I know at
Yeah,
some point you'll hit critical mass where you might not be able to, but maybe at this point you could, if somebody had personal questions, I mean, can
yeah.
they?
Just my email address is Dylan, Dylan, like Bob Dylan, and then Dylan at getscribeware.com. And you can, if you Google my name, Dylan Chalk, there's like 50 million things. You can easily find me. I'm
Awesome.
all over.
Well,
I'm all over the web.
and also everybody who's listening to this, go his home inspection company. If you got value out of this, and you know you did, give him some value back. Go to Orca, like the whale, right? We talked about
Yeah,
that.
yeah,
ORCA. That's Dylan's home inspection company. Orca Inspection Services, correct, in
yep.
Seattle.
That's it.
And
Yep.
give him a like, a follow, anything that'll help his SEO. I guess we
Thanks,
can
Preston.
really give him a 5-star review, other than he's a nice guy and he knows what he's talking about, but we
Yeah.
don't want to be fraudulent or anything.
I also wrote a book a couple of years ago called The Confident House Hunter. So
Really?
yeah, it's a pretty cool book. Check it out. It's on Amazon. I have 99 5-star reviews right now. So if somebody needs to read it and give me a number 100.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Well, I'll tell you
But
what,
anyway,
if you're the 100th person who gives him a 5-star review, what's it called?
The Confident House Hunter.
House Hunter. I will buy you a beer if Dylan won't at the next conference.
I love it. And I'll give you a free book.
All right. Awesome. He'll probably sign it for you too.
Yeah.
Awesome.
I will.
Well, Dylan, thank you so much for everybody out there. Again, it's scribeware.com. Check out what he's got on there. I think there's a Facebook. I don't know if you have to get an invite for that, but there's a forum, that I don't know if you might not want people in that without.
No, you guys can, if you're a home inspector, join our forum. I don't let everybody in. I try to only let home inspectors or people that seem like they're legitimate and want to use the software.
Yeah, I mean, you probably don't want a competitor in there or somebody. I'm sure you'd kick somebody out if they became a jerk or something.
Yeah,
just
I would.
And good. Yeah. Some other groups that need to kick some people out.
Yeah,
but anyway,
we got a nice group in there. So yeah, we'd love to have you part of the community. Feel free to reach out. Happy to try to do a Zoom with you if we can. And again, we schedule lots of Zooms. Zooms are such a good way to like see the software, see all the different things you can do with it, because there's a lot of customization that can go on. So
awesome. Well, Dylan, thank you so much for your time, brother. I appreciate it.
Thanks, Preston. Thanks for having me, man.